As I'm sitting here in the profound display of beauty and generosity, the mountains here, the garden that I get to participate in, the beauty of this tree, the generosity, the ground that bears the food, and just generosity, generosity, generosity. And one of my prayers that I hold in continuum is the acceptance and the openness to this generosity that is pouring into us and our bodies and our lives continuously. That's missed so often in the pressures of our daily life. And I'm struck by the generosity of the Sangha, the Clear Light Sangha. Just the generosity of assisting when we need something, we need furniture moved, we need, art to enhance and teach in our retreats. It's just this amazing kind of generosity that I'm deeply touched by. I'm just deeply touched by. The scholarship fund in 2018 was such a generous outpouring, and it supported so many people, and people who were willing and dedicated, quite mature, and it allowed them to then participate in the retreats, in Dokusans, in the mentoring program, where it just simply wouldn't have been possible. And so the generosity and the willingness, the devotion lined up in a way that there was just such a beautiful support and deepening. I mean, it was so apparent how that inpouring allowed that to take place. I'm just deeply touched by that. So we're asking again, in the Zen retreat is coming up, and there's some other events that we're wanting to provide, and the ability to say yes. We can support this. A part of the time on the planet, I think there's a great acceleration of change, and people that have worked all of their lives, that have maybe supported themselves and others, there's some kind of a challenge that comes up, and we're hearing that in the Sangha and mutual friends, and that unexpected challenge ends up, they don't have the means, and so it's such a beautiful way in the Sangha that we can say, okay, here you are, you're needing some receiving, and so there's this sort of gracious supporting and giving that allows that person to move through not only the life change, but in most cases the great lessons, if you want to call it that, that comes along with the receiving. For many of us, it's much easier to give than to receive. So we're often put in situations, God's great wisdom puts us in situations where we learn to receive and to take in. And then when we have the means again, why then it can flow out in a much more open and fluid manner. So the person giving the scholarship opens themselves to a greater receiving. And those that are receiving, giving back, allows that flow to happen. So we've put a great deal of thought about how to best support one another, but also how to best support just um, the truth of how life functions. The giving is the receiving, and the receiving is the giving. One of, I think, the uniqueness of Clear Light Sangha and my expression through that is intimacy. And so intimacy also requires smaller kind of participation, numbers in participation. And so that also requires just a bit more giving in that we can continue to work with our smaller numbers and continue this deep intimacy and the great maturity. I've gone all over, traveled a great deal, and frankly, the maturity in our Sangha is it's beautiful, and the willingness and the humbleness and the heartfulness. So thank you for your beautiful generosity, and we're asking that it continues, and that as you so give, so shall you receive.